Why do you say that, Father? You aren't afraid, are you?
No, but I respect some of the superstitions of others. Often they are founded in fact.
Hello, I'm Krista,
I'm Kristen.
and we are the Sixth
Sixth
Sense
Sense
Society.
Society.
Welcome to the monthly cosmic weather report for the month of May. So this is our first one. We're quite excited about it. And I think what I'll first do is maybe just talk about just some of the things happening, and then we'll talk about how we feel about it. So first of all, the moons, I'll just briefly tell you what the moons are this month. And Saturday, May 4th, we have a new moon in 14 degrees of Taurus, 11 minutes at 3:46 p.m. And Saturday, May 11th, we have our first quarter in 21 degrees Leo, 3 minutes at 6:12 p.m. This is all Pacific time. Saturday, May 18th, which is a pretty important moon, is the full moon in 27 degrees of Scorpio, 39 minutes at 2:11 p.m. And Sunday, May 26th, we have our last quarter in 5 degrees of Pisces in 9 minutes at 9:34 a.m. So let's start with the moons, I think, and go on to some of the planetary events. And what do you feel about the moons this month?
We have the Taurus new moon on the 4th, as you mentioned. Now, this one is conjunct Neptune which is in the Sun and Mars. So it's a very dreamy, romantic moon. It has this sense of dreaminess and romance to it. Venus ruling love and money. It's very much about like a reboot. This moon is actually quite powerful, and there's a chance to kind of reboot and set new intentions when it comes to love, money, and the things that you value. Venus is going to be in Aries in the time of the new moon, so I feel it's about speaking your truth as Taurus rules the throat, but it's about doing it in a kind way and not being too impulsive and feeling things out. I think that there's something really interesting here with the senses because with Taurus, it's all about what you can see, feel, taste, touch, hear. But there's also the sixth sense, and I think with this moon conjuncting Neptune in the Sun and in Mars, it's an opportunity to work on your intuition and to key in on your intuition, because the senses can also be what you're manifesting. It can be you can be a sense of having balance or imbalance in your life. It can be you're sensing, maybe you're in a room and you're just sensing something is off. You're sensing a bit of caution. Maybe there's someone that you're feeling is a little bit dangerous to you. These are all senses as well. And this is a chance in this moon to explore that and to reopen that within yourself. So this is the first new moon in Taurus with Uranus in Taurus. So it's really interesting and exciting because we've got this fire energy. And when you put fire and you put Taurus and Earth in there, and you put your fiery and your movement and your action-oriented fire, and you combine it with Taurus, you can get a lot of reality going on with whatever you're passionate about. So all these really exciting things about this full moon in Taurus, a new moon in Taurus. It's my new moon, so it's very exciting. Anything to add about this moon?
And I think she meant not Neptune, but Uranus. You said earlier it was conjunct Neptune. So she just meant that. That was
I'm so sorry. During the moon, Neptune is conjunct the Sun and Mars. And that's part of the moon, and that's part of the dreamy quality and romantic quality
Oh,
of the
okay,
moon.
because that
So
was a little unclear.
so please excuse me, guys. It's my first cosmic weather.
Well, I might have heard that wrong.
It's okay.
So that's what I heard. So
I'm sure I did say it wrong, so I apologize.
well, first of all, the new moon in Taurus is interesting to me because also as we proceed through the month, you're going to see there's a lot of Taurus energy. So it's really a good chance, even without noticing where it hits your chart, to really understand the energies of Taurus. So I think when you have a lot of the same sign, you can just kind of meditate on the sign and say, well, what is Taurus in general? Like, what does it represent? We know it represents desire, possessions. It's connected to nature, security, stability. Taurus can be stubborn, the bull, but it's also connected to, interesting enough, the Buddha, which we'll talk about a little later when we go to the other moons, because we also, you think about Taurus, you think about Venus, and rightfully so, the goddess, but you don't always immediately think about the Buddha.
Right. The Buddha is a Taurus.
Yeah, in this month of May, he was not only born supposedly in the month of May, he was enlightened, and he died in May. So he's definitely associated with Taurus. So I think, for me, the new moon in Taurus is going to be not completely conjunct my Mars, but I have Mars in Taurus. So I'm having a lot going on because Uranus is conjunct Mars, and so maybe I'll feel it maybe more than I will some other moons. And so obviously new moons are new beginnings, and it's nice to sort of start things. And you might look at starting new desires, whether it's something practical that you want or
Right.
something more emotional that you want to feed yourself. It might be a good time to set intentions for that. Also, I just think in general, Taurus, I've always seen Taurus connected to nature. At least the Taurans that I've known and dated were always really into nature. One really loved going backpacking and would take me places I'd never go on my own. And
Well, it's about
and
also the home
yeah,
and being comfortable and relishing in your home. It's about cooking and creating secure, like a security blanket, very much, but in a way that's valued to yourself. Like, what do you value within your home? What do you value within the group of people that you spend time with? How do they value you? Maybe you're not feeling valued in your home space. Maybe you're not feeling valued um, by the people around you. And I mean, this is all things to look at in this new moon. Um, it's interesting. May 14th, Venus sextiles Mars in a very karmic degree of 29 degrees. So that is actually really interesting because it's kind of coming in this right in between the Taurus new moon and the Scorpio. It's kind of like winding us out of this sort of nature, kind of like more comforting moon that is quite very powerful, but it's still in this in all these in this area of value and the senses and nature and desires and possessions and the things that we feel good about. And it's helping us transition into the Scorpio full moon, which has got a completely different tone to it. Now, I feel that on May 14th and around that time, whether it be right before or right after, because we have to remember that time can be a little bit fluid up here in the stars. It's a karmic degree looking into relationships in general. I think particularly in love relationships. And it's a time to evaluate where you are in the most important relationships in your life. Maybe it's time to level up with someone. So you might find that you're leveling up with in a friendship or in a partnership, or particularly in a love relationship. You may be having talks about where are we, and they could be very positive, but this is also a critical time of things coming to a head where if things haven't been going so well, you may find there's a bit of tension going on there because sometimes you just can't take it anymore. And again, you want to be careful because Venus will still be in Aries. And again, you don't want to get into a confrontation that may not be productive. Now, if it's been enough with someone, if you've been in a romantic relationship where you haven't felt valued coming out of this Taurus Valley, where you feel like there's not any, you don't feel secure in your home, you don't feel valued there, It's just not a pleasant place for you to be, or it's not quite what it was. It's evolved into something else, and you haven't been able to transition. This might be the time to have these talks, and in some cases you'll be able to reevaluate together, and okay, this is where we go from here to make it better. This is where, oh, you might find that your significant other also feels the same way, and you might have a productive place and space to talk about this. But it may also be a time where maybe you might need to release and to let go. And if that's the case, to try to do it consciously and productively and meaningfully, and kindness towards the other person despite how they might be treating you, to be the better person. As my dad used to always say, you know what, it's just our job to be the better person. And it doesn't mean being a doormat. It just means being the better person means staying in your power. So that's what I have to say about that.
I would like to focus on May 18th, Saturday, the full moon. It's actually a blue moon, which is surprising to me because there's two kinds of blue moons. There's the kind where you have two full moons in the same month, and there's a kind that you have 4 full moons in a season. So this is a seasonal blue moon, and it's evidently the 3rd full moon, not the 4th one of the season. It's a little more rare than the 2 in 1 month, but it's not that rare. It's like every 2.5 years. So, but it falls on the Wesak celebration, which is Buddha's day of birth, death, enlightenment, and death. And so it is. I don't usually go crazy over the moon stuff. Everyone's like, oh, the full moon, you can change your consciousness every single month. This one is very powerful for a couple reasons. One, it's in Scorpio, which is not comfortable in that the moon in Scorpio is not a comfortable position for the moon because it's exalted in Taurus. So it's in detriment, but it's also sextile Pluto retrograde. And that actually helps the Scorpio side. So I feel it can be incredibly karmically transformative, both for the personal reasons, but for the collective. And because it falls on one of the most spiritual days for Buddhists, and that's supposedly where all these cosmic energies are released. And if you take the time to meditate and really wish for the best for other people and want to be of service, it evidently can help to shift, maybe down the road, the consciousness of mankind. And I do think there are sometimes cosmic points, but you've got to do something with them. You have to actually, however you want to do it, in groups especially. And one a site I was looking at, they said to do it 18 hours before the full moon, and on the full moon you do a particular kind of meditation or something spiritual. One suggested you can even recite the great invocation that's in Alice Bailey's books, so that you're actually helping to bring down these forces and these energies, and then they will go off into the consciousness of the human race. And like I said, I don't usually buy into any of that, but I think in this case, because it being a full moon, blue moon, on the day of Buddha's day, I think it can be quite a transformative and powerful one. It might be interesting to see what happens on that day in the world, because you are dealing with Pluto a little bit in retrograde, and I do think that Pluto has a karmic element to it, even both individually and collectively. And as Pluto in Capricorn, we've been talking about this on the show, that it's in the 2nd house in the United States chart, and how which is of course a Taurus house, and all this stuff with money and the banks and needing to really change. And so there can be, I think, some difficulties where things are stuck, because that's what Pluto's supposed to undo. But some of it's going to be internal because it's retrograde. It's not all going to be external. Retrograde helps you to go deep. And by the way, you can time travel. So you can go back in time or forward and look at things karmically, maybe for yourself. Might be a good day to do a regression. I don't know. But that's the one, I think that's probably for me, maybe the most important day of May, as far as like a cosmic point of view. And then, as Kristen was saying, we have some changes in the planets. Venus will be in Aries, but then it's going into Taurus. I think it's May 15th. And then Mercury's also going into Taurus a little earlier, so that we're going to have, for a while anyway, the sun will still be in Taurus until May 21st. So we're gonna have a lot of Taurus energy, that month. And as you know, you're very familiar with it since you're a Taurus, and I have Mars in Taurus, and but everyone can benefit. Everyone has something probably connected to Taurus, maybe. If it's not a planet, maybe you have something in the second house. And even if you don't, you can definitely work on, kind of feeling the energies and seeing how you feel about them personally, and not necessarily having to have a chart handy. My opinion, anyway.
Excellent.
So that's really all I wanted to talk about. We still have, the retrogrades of the planet Jupiter, Saturn, and they're retrograde in their own signs in a sense. They're still going on. And one other thing I wanted to say about Taurus, being that for me, maybe because I have Mars in Taurus, I think Taurus is a very sensual sign. And it likes, touching, and it likes the body and smells, and because of all this Taurus energy, and also, because of Pluto in retrograde in Capricorn, I feel like it's a really good time to work with your body and to really get in there and really either enjoy it if you've been disconnected, which I think a lot of us are because of the way, social media is. We're very much in our heads a lot, and you don't even know how much you're in your head until, like in my case, I had an injury. And I really had to be in my body. I have to really watch my body. And I realized I've been a little disconnected from it. And I don't think that's necessarily why I had the accident. But I was listening by chance to a Thich Nhat Hanh video. And sometimes people ask him questions. And this question was, how do I love myself? And his initial statement really surprised me. He said, you have to rediscover your body is a wonder. And he went on about talking about the body and how that's the first place you really learn to love yourself. And I thought, you know what? That's a great reminder. It's kind of like my mantra now. I have to really rediscover my body as a wonder, because I do so much head things. I read, I do readings, and that the body has this wisdom. And I feel like Taurus energy is a great time to really say, hey, body, let's go do some things, and I'm going to really, connect with you. And however that looks like, whether it's just for fun or also you want to do some healing work, that kind of thing. So that's my mantra for the month, I think. So
Excellent.
I think that's it for our did you have anything
I
else you
actually
wanted to
do
add?
about the Scorpio new moon. It is in harmonious aspect with Saturn and Pluto, as Krista was saying. It's also Mercury is opposing the full moon, and it's conjuncting the sun. So this is very much about. I always want to say there's a bit of a reckoning energy here, and it's very much looking towards secrets being revealed, hidden things coming to the surface. Now that doesn't have to be negative things, like ooh, hidden things coming to the surface. I like ooh. I mean, it could be, that finally you got an acceptance letter into a college that you're trying to get into, or it could be about a job, or it could be something like that. But there's just something to be mindful of, that this moon in Scorpio, especially with Mercury, which is about communication and about mental thoughts, you could be able to manifest a lot of this with your thoughts. But don't be surprised if some information that you've been waiting for, whether it be in your personal life or professional life, romantic, friendship, family, job, kind of comes to the surface. I think especially things that have been percolating are going to finally begin to become open, and a bit of a breakthrough throughout the month and even going into June. On the 20th, Venus is going to trine Saturn. And so anything that gets revealed could potentially be very solid and substantial, and actually very forward moving and good. Now, what's also interesting, and the last thing I do want to mention, is that Venus is conjunct Uranus also in this time of this Scorpio full moon. So again, we're talking about unexpected things, or something that you're not, I mean, I hate to say the word miracle, but like even it could be that energy with Uranus going on, but just unexpected type of things happening within romance and love and partnership and friendship. But don't be surprised that with Saturn trining on the 20th Venus, that if something unexpected has come up with someone from the past or somebody new that you weren't expecting to meet, don't be surprised if it turns out to be have a lot of longevity and solidness to it, because Saturn is actually going to be helping that along. So if it happens to be, especially with Uranus involved, it could be a person from your past that you were thought, well, this person's never going to change. Don't be surprised if they have with this energy. Or this is the kind of person or kind of guy or gal that I don't really normally go for. They're the opposite. Maybe it's a different, pattern of dating or pattern of people that you're meeting that could be unexpected. Don't be surprised if it really becomes a solid thing and you might find that you like something a little bit different. And that's what I have to say about that.
Well, I think that's a good start, and we hope that you have a great month of May, however you use the cosmic weather or not. And please, if you want to like us, please do, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and let us know if you have something you want us to talk about, especially with the astrology that you're interested in. We'd love to hear from you. And have a great month of May.